Ready to go?
All good?
Okay, so let's open the meeting for the Fayston Selectboard on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the Robert Vassar Town Hall. Maybe we get some folks here tonight, so I'll start by introducing myself and then go around the table, introduce ourselves. I'm Chuck Martell, Chair of the Select Board. Andrea?
Andrea Henderson, Conservation Commission.
Amy Dalton, Conservation Commission.
Brian Littman's Conservation Commission.
Mike Jordan, Selectman.
Ron Graves, Selectman.
Eve Silverman, computer. Minute
taker?
Minute taker.
Madison Vassar, Town Clerk and Select Board Assistant.
Okay, all right, so I guess we're ready to go with the first item on the agenda, which is to approve the Select Board meeting minutes of January 14th, 2025. Everyone had a chance to review that?
I have.
Yep.
We have a motion to accept?
I would make a motion to.
All right,
I'll second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Looks like that's unanimous. Any additions or deletions to the agenda that anyone has?
I'm assuming Josh isn't going to come, so no road foreman because he was here last night.
Good point, that's right.
And then we
He-
also don't have any catering or liquor licenses.
Yep, and he was at our budget meeting last night and nothing new to report other than a lot of snow moving going on, so he won't be here tonight. Anything else, Maddie, that we
I
need
don't
to
think
share?
so.
Are we not setting the budget?
Well, yes, signing the warning. I mean, that's all that I was gathered, is that you guys are signing that, and so that is the approval of,
Okay,
so
yeah.
then the budget number is on there.
Yeah, yep, okay.
Perfect.
Yep. All right, good to move on. Any public comments other than what you're here to address tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is to review the budget with the Fayston Conservation Commission. And you want me to do the introduction on how we got here with our questions? So as we were doing the budget for 2025, one of the things that came up for us as we looked at your budget worksheet, which I've really marked up here, is that a lot of what was on here under capital reserve really are operating items. So we thought that we should have a discussion with you about that, and also to let you know what we had done. We had put in some money for the budget if it gets approved by the town. As an example, under the Fayston Conservation Commission, which is actually part of the operating budget, we budgeted $4,500. Your request was for $4,500. So if that gets approved, that will go into that fund category. As the Conservation Reserve Fund, you would ask for $4,000. We had budgeted $3,500. And again, if that gets approved, that will be the amount of money to go into that fund. The one that we really had questions with is the Town Forest Reserve Fund. And Maddie went back and looked at the town meeting minutes of when that fund was established. And it was established as a reserve fund, but it includes all operating items, operating budget items. So what happens in that scenario, and Mike, you were the one that brought it up, was that we put aside that money in that budget line item. If it doesn't get spent, it stays in there. And over the years, we refund that same budget line item, and the money that doesn't get spent continues to stay in there. And what it is it's detrimental to the taxpayer, because that money should be in an operating budget, where if you don't use it, you apply for a new operating budget for the next year. So that's what we wanted to talk to you about. You're not going to lose any money this year based on all of that, because the Town Reserve Fund has $38,000 in it already, and we're putting in another $12,000 this year. So our recommendation is, and what we wanted to discuss with you, is to draw down that account over the next few years, right? so that then we can put the items in the proper place in an operating budget. So we didn't want to do any of that without talking with you first and letting you know what our thinking was and then get your input on that.
And we're actually talking about the budget for next year, right?
Yeah.
2025.
So this year it doesn't change anything, we're just preparing for
That's correct.
2026.
And as you draw down the funds in that forest reserve fund, you have all the money you need for what you budgeted on this worksheet. So it's not going to, as Ron said, it's not taking any money away from you this year.
Right. The biggest thing was really making all of them kind of more similar, and that one really stood out. Most of our reserve funds are really just capital set-asides for buying trucks, culverts, replacing a bridge, and there are things that we have to put a little bit of money away every year so we can finally pay for it when we're going to do it down the road at some point in time. And the town forest reserve fund became this kind of amorphous one where it was yearly budget kind of plus that maybe, but there's no real project that we're thinking of funding or purchasing, or so it stood out as a very different thing. And whereas like everything else that's similar to that, like the path, the ambulance service, they're all within our regular line item budget. And that's what we wanted to move towards, having the FCC have line items in the yearly budget that correspond to what needs to happen that year. And that way it tracks easier, and it's similar to everything else we're using. But
And then the conservation reserve budget, which has $65,000 and change in it. As I said, we're putting a little more money in than $3,500 to fund that, but that is more of like what Mike's talking about. If land comes up, you want to purchase the land, you got to have some money aside to do that, and so that fund would stay
Right.
as a non-operating fund. But the others would go into an operating budget.
Do you all, can I ask a question? Okay.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Do you all envision, or have you thought about putting together clear guidelines memorializing where you are here, what you've expressed, and something that would be available for whenever we're all gone and any institutional limited knowledge there is for folks in the future would understand? Because I think, we started when we understood this question was coming, we tried to understand and actually had difficulty finding out like what are the guidelines for the Forest Reserve Fund. And so there is one for the Conservation Fund, and it may be beneficial to have one that speaks to the town forest reserve beyond what Maddie shared.
Because I looked back today, and there isn't
right,
one
there's
for
nothing
that.
in that.
Yeah.
For this
Yeah.
reserve account, there's no guidelines like what you
Right,
found.
so and I'd found that too.
Did you all see the minutes from the town meeting when that was established?
Yes.
2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Right.
Yeah.
And another thing that I had found was this Town Forest Stewardship Guide in Vermont. And it talks about, what the town forest, or what a town forest reserve fund might be established for. But, so what was the intention besides what we've read in the minutes?
Maintenance and care is what the article says.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And the article actually says used for an operating budget to maintain town properties.
Right.
So when that article went before the town, I don't know, somebody hadn't thought through the fact that is not an appropriate place to have the funding for an operations budget, And so that's when we stumbled across it this year and said, well, geez, all that money staying in that account is not fair to the taxpayers, because it never comes out of that account unless you make a capital purchase or you start drawing it down like we're recommending to pay for operating expenses. So that's what brought us here tonight.
Right.
So one of the things I'll just share
In other words,
that
it doesn't have an earmark. There are things, the reserves are earmarked for a fire truck or land to be purchased, if that's right, the other, or whatever, road, bridges, say money paving, which it's earmarked, and I think the thing is it's not earmarked,
Well, I mean, I guess it's, in a way, it's earmarked for anything that the town forests might require. And I wonder, well, let me just, read here what this is talking about, that designated conservation funds might be used for in a town forest. So towns might use their conservation funds for various purposes, purchase additional land, so that's our reserve fund. Forest-based education programs, survey to establish and mark property boundaries, construct and maintain forest roads. And I know like that went from a class 4 to a class 3 road, so I don't know if any work on that has to happen, if that goes to the roads, to the town forest budget, I guess that would be a question. And improve recreation access. And it says the important principle behind using a conservation fund, town forest reserve fund, is to assure that money generated from the town forest goes back to the town forest, forest-based activities, and it's not simply absorbed into the town's general fund, which I think is where we're going, that should ultimately, be kind of absorbed into the town's general fund, or...
Well, the donations wouldn't need to be, but the operating budget, I think, should probably be.
Yeah, and it's not really a general fund. I mean, if I think of it in terms of like the federal or state general fund, it's a specific line item that would go to the Conservation Commission for all of the operating budget items that you would present during that year. So, it's not like it's a different fund with a different name that we're going to take money out of. It would be dedicated to the Conservation Commission. So it's just a different way of looking at it. So in that kind of a situation, if you spend less than what you had asked for, which means you didn't need it all, it goes back to the town.
Right.
Right.
Whereas
And
this,
just include it in next year's budget if it's something you didn't get done.
Right.
yeah, we could do that as well.
Or
Right, like-
or you have a good idea that, it goes over budget, and you present why it would, and we approve it.
Yeah,
So, for clarity, you seek all maintenance care / operationals to be included in 5706 for,
I think we probably make,
you're gonna
we
make
should
it
probably,
no
we should
matter
probably,
what?
we should
We'd
probably
make a
make
line item.
sub ones under that.
Okay.
That would be the easiest for you guys to try,
Specific.
for everybody to track.
Okay.
Like every department has their own account.
Multiples,
Well-
yeah.
Right. I'm just looking at the budget accounts that were included in our last budget.
Well, they have one, right?
Yeah.
5706.
But we can
Yeah.
make
the
like,
Yeah.
sheet that
No, they
gave
have,
us, yes, yep.
right, like a line
Right.
thing, yeah.
That
So-
number would
But
just
that's
get
what we
bigger.
propose, is to
Okay.
expand that.
I think I understand that, and I think we can convey that to the Conservation Commission when we meet. What is still unclear to me is what would go into the Town Forest Reserve Fund?
Well, this is my personal feeling, because we haven't talked about this to that level of detail. My thought was that once that money is drawn down, that account would go away.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand, because if you look at our 2025 budget, it includes what I would classify, based on this conversation, as operational. There's nothing else, everything in here, trail maps, mapping, these would be operational.
Yeah, they're annual basis
Okay.
things. They're not aspiring to buy the property next door.
Okay.
So we'd have to coordinate too with Sarah to make sure that as expenses come in, that they're withdrawn from the right accounts in order to draw
Yep.
down that account. So, as you're submitting things,
We would clarify it's 3032.
Yes.
Right, and we do.
Yeah,
So
okay.
if something comes in, whether it should be going to the Town Forest Reserve Fund or to the FCC budget,
Okay,
annual budget,
all right.
which was,
But
has been, 1,500.
But based on our conversation, it'll be important that you realize we try to draw down that fund and, maybe some things that you're gonna submit bills for to Sarah, that they reflect that they're coming out of that fund.
Out of the town forest
Yeah,
reserve fund.
yeah,
We will certainly have conversations, but I would probably just flag for you all that it may be that one of the outcomes is that if the town forest reserve fund, if the intention is basically to have it cease and desist once all funds are spent, that if there's anything in the language, and I can't think of anything right now, I'd have to sit with it for longer, but if there's anything in the conservation reserve fund guides that somehow would make sense to have an amendment to that would speak to a maybe it's a long-term acquisition associated with Boyce Hill, that it would be fine for whatever that is to go into the Conservation Reserve Fund. And again, maybe the Conservation Reserve Fund is written in a way that would allow any hypothetical I could think of that would address something special pertaining to either Boyce Hill or Chasebrook that isn't operational. But that would be my only thought, to make sure that if it's something that fits the reserve fund category, but somehow the conservation fund is written in a way that would preclude it because it's a town forest, that would not be the intent. At least from what I hear today, that wouldn't be the intent. That we wouldn't want to preclude something just because it's a town forest when it could happen elsewhere in Fayston under the
Right.
Conservation Reserve Fund.
yeah, yeah. So you,
And I thought that was pretty wide.
I think it is. I
Yeah.
think we need to sit with it because
Yeah.
we've been operating with this concept that is going to be refined.
yeah, yeah. And that's why we wanted to have this discussion, you know, to let you know where our head's at. And I don't think it's gonna harm anything financially for the Conservation Commission, but it will get us more in line with what the rest of our budget looks like, you know, as far as the operation budget is concerned. So,
Yeah, I haven't looked, but I would be curious to know, and I will look to see, you know, what are other towns doing? I don't know if you have any idea.
I don't know.
yeah, I'm not sure.
If we learn of anything, we will share it.
All right,
But that would come back to this conversation about the Conservation Reserve Fund and what it is, and maybe there's a reason to amend or change certain language.
yeah,
But I don't have, there's nothing that I have in my mind right now that requires that.
okay. All right.
Are there any, like, would there be specific line items you'd want to have? Like,
You need to
so
reserve the money for
So if the FCC is broken out into broader categories that are sub-tiers to it, like, do you, would you want to do that, or would you want it all within a single tier? You know what I mean?
Oh, in the
In
warrant
the
budget?
annual budget, right, you would have the FCC line item, which has been in there for a long time, that's funded the FCC's work. So now there's going to be other expenses going into that, and whether to expand it to show that, this is the management of it, this is not weed, budget, this is, to refine it like that. It would be helpful to know what those were.
Right.
Because I think that it would be great to set it up that way, so that you can, it's much more apparent, and when you come, you can say, this is the budget for this is our annual budget for that, this is that.
I mean, obviously, we're doing that,
Yes,
at the
Yeah.
Yeah,
at
'cause
the
that's on
commission
your-
level, right?
your budget
In the
detail.
budget that
Right.
we
Yeah.
provide you, it's, broken
Yeah.
out all the
yeah.
various
But
line
Mike's
items.
question is that this, would it be helpful to have that specified as a separate line item under the FCC budget
Yeah.
for bear initiative, for knotweed, for, whatever else you may be working on at the time?
Right.
With it.
I think we would probably want to have a discussion about that.
Yeah.
And if it's 5706 and it's just a long list from everything that's in our budget, but just all under one, that may not be the easiest thing for the public, for folks of Fayston to understand. Because it's gonna be down to like $50 for a bench and to, you know, X
Right.
thousand for a bigger project. And so, I think we would wanna think through what those categories would look like.
Right.
And we would also love to hear from you all. Maybe we can come up with a concept and hear from you how you think it is helpful to package
Yep.
it, because I think part of it is just so the public can understand
Right.
what the budget is.
Absolutely.
And also, so that it works well, it makes sense when we come to you.
Right.
You understand why a certain egg is in a certain basket.
Right, and I think like some of those ones are, that are similar is like, you know, like our legal funds, right? On any specific year, we may have, you know, a large issue going on in town, which everybody's aware of, and we make a separate line item for that, so people are aware of like what the Korean subdivision is costing the town, you know, which was a long legal battle. But we also under that have just a general legal item, which is if we have to revise a contract or whatnot. And it, you know, it's just good to identify some of these things in that top line so that, you know, yeah, the people of town can be like, oh, we support that, or, you know, we understand why that line item's going up or down, or.
And to understand, just for clarity, these would be sub-accounts under 5706, or would these be separate
I
accounts?
don't even know if it'd be the same number, 5706, Sarah may.
That's a
decide to
Sarah
set it up
question,
differently.
Yeah, it would be what's easier for her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think, yeah, like, I don't think you want to have like 70 of them.
Exactly.
But I think the major ones,
But
like
the major
knotweed or the bear initiative, whatever the bigger ones are, and then there would be just a general operating thing for benches or,
Right,
Yeah.
you know, whatever,
maintenance,
Yeah.
small mats or the small things.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in my mind, thinking about that town forest reserve fund, things like benches are not an annual operating type expense, or like building a stone, I don't know what the latest thing is that we're planning to build.
Steps.
The steps, sorry, the stone steps, like those are, I guess, capital improvements or land improvements. I mean, it's not a building per se. So, you know, there is some differentiating between annual operating costs.
Yeah, but if you were gonna do that in a year, you just include it.
Right.
It's a small enough
in that-
number, right?
In that budget, you know, you just say, well, we're gonna put stone steps in the pond this year, and it's gonna cost roughly, you know, $5,000 or whatever. Or, you know, we're gonna repair the corral, stone corral, and, you know. So then it's basically the projects you're gonna do that year versus the costs that it's gonna be incurred. So, you know, we're definitely supportive of whatever you wanna do there. And, you know, so but it's just, I think, easier for us to track it in an annual budget as opposed to the reserve, which kind of gets a little wonky.
And from the reserve perspective too, you're really looking out to what you may need for money in the future for a particular item. You know, like,
Yeah.
we may need money to purchase land, so we can put money in the reserve for that. But like Mike says, you know, if you're gonna put benches in or a stone wall, with the entry to the pond or whatever, you put it in this year's budget, it gets approved, you spend it, you know, so there's no carryover of any of that stuff.
And that's kind of, so the, I mean, how Fayston is operated, and this is different from a lot of towns, and even towns in the valley, is that, you know, we really use our reserve funds to pay in front as opposed to going up to bond.
Right.
Which, you know, a lot of people would rather do. And we have the comfortable position of doing that and therefore not paying interest, especially now. And it's worked very well.
Yeah.
No, I think that's commendable. I think it's amazing that Fayston's been able to do that.
Oh, my God, especially in the year of the flood,
Yeah.
it hasn't been easy. So you will come back to us with some thoughts and recommendations after you talk to the folks on the committee?
Yep,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, that sounds good.
No problem.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Cool.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My former walking partner.
we need to do that again sometime.
What, you haven't been out walking? Been running.
A little bit of everything.
2 minutes, citizens.
Oh, okay, thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Next item was the road foreman update, which we're not going to do. This next item I asked to have added, just discuss dates for employee reviews. We do them this time of year, and so just for us to be thinking about what dates are good, especially for you, Mike, we were out of town a lot, and, you know, set up some things in the morning or afternoon or
Are you
whatever.
planning on doing it with the road crew again, or not?
Yeah, I think probably the other meetings we had with them weren't really
Okay.
evaluation,
Yeah.
performance review kind of thing.
Are we gonna ask Josh to do them
Yeah.
first? Like, might as well dive right in.
That's a good
And
point,
get a
okay.
report, have Josh
Yeah.
review, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that was part of, that was one of his tasks.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
Um,
you know, it'll be a learning curve, but
and I
Can
can
assist.
contact him and talk to him about that, so.
Yeah,
that's
and
a
maybe Chuck, we could set a timeline,
Yep,
that it would be not at our next board meeting, but maybe the one after, I don't know, give them some leeway, not
Yeah, to get
pressure
it
on, but
completed.
maybe, because come town meeting, those, things are retroactive, that pay,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
so we
right.
should have it at least before then?
Yep.
Or by then, have some kind of idea of those reviews?
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's coming up on us, I think. I mean, if we do the second meeting in February, it would be the last one
Yeah,
probably before
before.
town meeting, right?
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So are you hoping to have them as
I
well
don't know.
with the road crew, or just Josh have them?
no, well, that's a good point. Do we just sit down with Josh then, or, you know what, we've done it individually with them. We probably should continue to do that. But we'd have the foreman's input when we do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I could see that.
yeah. Okay.
So maybe we need it next. I don't know how it really works, but I mean, that's,
I mean, I think he should be able to,
What's that?
I'm sure he can do some reviews before,
Oh,
in
yeah,
in 2
yeah.
weeks.
Do we want to do the administrative office sooner than that? We give Josh some time to do his thing, but,
we have two, right?
So,
Oh, no, four.
right, it
Yeah.
would be
we.
Jason, Doug, Sarah, and me.
Right, we
Yeah.
don't do second lister, third lister, because they don't really,
If you did it on Wednesday with the listers, there's sometimes 2 of them here on
Oh,
Wednesdays.
on Wednesdays?
Mhm.
Okay.
Not always.
You want to do that sooner and get that one?
I can be available, it's up to you, Mike, I don't know, I know during the days, it really isn't good for you.
No, it isn't. As long, if it, you know, if it's cold, it's fine. Like if it's below 10,
You
then
can't-
I can do it because then we're not working.
I love your email response, I can't drill in this way.
Tomorrow morning.
Oh, no, we're drilling tomorrow,
Oh, yeah?
not Thursday.
That's mine is on Thursday.
Thursday's the day. Yeah, Thursday's cold. Tomorrow's not too bad.
No.
Tomorrow's gonna be in the
Yeah,
20s.
We couldn't work in the wind today, so.
Yeah, water tends to get really hard quick.
You want to go like sometime next week or week after for the administrative?
Saturday morning's fine as 4, but you probably not trying to sit
Yeah, I mean, because I'm stuck in Williston for a while. It's really only if it's a cold day, so
Yeah,
I can join you if it's, you know, if I'm not. Otherwise, I could.
yeah.
Would it be bad to do them at 5:30? Yes,
I don't know, Matty, how do you all feel about
it
that?
is.
I mean, I don't mind, but,
Right,
You could get
I
paid for
know.
being a select board assistant and come to your review.
yeah, I'm not saying I mind, but Jason
yeah,
leaves at 3:30 usually.
Yeah.
Right,
That's the only thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure they would make it work if that's what needs to happen.
yeah, yeah.
I can make it work.
do you want me to just ask them tomorrow? And see if they would be okay with like a 5:30 sometime next week?
Next week, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I know, like, on Tuesday night, Jason has a DRB meeting, so like
Oh, yeah,
he's staying.
before that.
But they start at 5.
Right.
6.
6?
So,
So do it at 5 or 5:30?
I thought they started earlier than that, no?
Unless it's different, but normally it's 6.
6, yeah, I think it's 6 for
We started, oh,
We start at 6.
For Freddy's is earlier.
you're talking about the
Planning
DRB, I'm sorry,
DRB.
DRB, I was thinking
Yeah.
planning commission, yeah.
Yeah,
So I know he has
We could
so
do
he
it
would
before
already
that.
be here
Yeah.
on the 4th,
wanna try that?
Sure.
Okay,
5 o'clock.
Yep.
yeah, that works for everybody?
Yeah. You can try that.
And then,
What day was it?
like, for.
4th at 5.
For Doug, I mean, I can ask him, or if he, would want to do it that same day, but
All right, why don't you check with him and see?
because obviously Jason could come to his meeting and you could meet with Doug,
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So like 5:30, is that,
Sure,
yeah, and then 5:30 for Doug?
You're gonna send this out, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
You need
Then
to
we
have
have to
someone
work.
after Doug, though.
You and Sarah.
You need to have someone after Doug.
What's that?
You need to have someone after Doug, so it cuts the time off.
Yeah. Sarah, we'll put Sarah behind, she'll know.
Would you try to do, you and Sarah that same day as well?
It's totally up to you guys, I don't know if you want to try to pack it all in, or,
Might be tough for Sarah and Doug to do the same night.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm happy to be after, if
Yep.
you want, or we can do me and Sarah before a select board meeting, the following,
Yeah.
the 11th.
yeah,
Do you want to do that?
yeah.
On the 11th, again, 5 and 5:30? Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, that works for you.
Yep.
That's better for both of you, right? Later in the day?
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
works for me.
Okay,
Awesome.
all right, so you will check with everyone,
I
Nay,
will check with
and
everyone and
let us
you
know?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Moving right along, update on the Washington County Sheriff Department.
Okay, so I had a phone conversation with Devin Klein last week sometime, maybe Thursday. And she explained how the Washington County Sheriff's approached them about trying to get a valley-wide, program together. And I asked her if Waitsfield already did that. She said yes, but they hadn't responded to her request like we did. They're also trying to involve Moortown. So I asked her a few questions, like what's the issue? Is it like they start in Warren and they end up in Fayston, that doesn't work and you don't get the fee? Well, according to her, she doesn't think they get any of those fees anyway. They just pay for monitoring or policing, but they don't get any of the money. But she didn't really know. So I expressed our feelings in town where we've been through that once, and we really, I didn't think I spoke out of turn when I said, I don't think that's really the town, that what the town would be in favor of, but that we would be open to listening. And I suggested to her that, it's too late to do anything this year at all, but maybe this summer, if she wants to come back to us and bring somebody from the Sheriff's Department to answer our questions, right? Because we have nothing to look at without getting some real answers. What are they after?
Right.
I don't know that it changes anybody's opinion in town, but I thought we should at least do the courtesy of listening. So that's how I left it with her. So you may get a call this summer and say, we'd like to get on your agenda on this meeting, and we'd like to have someone from the Washington County Sheriff's visit and give their spiel, and we'll listen and take it from there.
Mhm. That sounds reasonable.
But I mentioned a couple times, I really did, I really feel, I remember that thing where it passed in town meeting, then it got repealed, and that was a huge amount of no votes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
More than there were yes votes at town meeting.
Yeah,
So I just, anyway,
yeah,
I left it open.
that sounds good. I mean, leave it open and
Yep.
see what happens.
Yeah, because I think if they did present something, it would be something to put as an article next year.
Yeah.
And let the process begin again.
Whatever it is, I don't.
But, I mean, I think that has to be voted in, because it was voted out.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I think
Oh,
that's
yeah,
the
oh,
appropriate way.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even, anyway. And then I think we'd have to make a decision, is it worth the
Yeah.
article?
Mhm.
That's,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what's the cost? What's the plan? And I look back and between you and I said this to Devin, I've only been here a year, but I can't say that the town clerk doesn't get the call. We've only had one person complain about speeding in town, and that's a road you're never gonna stop it on.
Mhm.
That's Route 17 with motorcycles and stuff,
It's usually 17 in German flats.
Yeah,
What's that?
17 in German flats are what
But
people
I'm saying
complain
I don't
about.
and
know.
but you're not gonna stop it on either of those roads.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot of second, homeowners that are probably young kids. I mean, I've
Or
seen it.
people just coming to go skiing,
Right.
that they have no interest in the town. They don't have a home, they don't have.
Yeah.
Be interesting too about like the sheriff department, are they getting people in Wakefield Village and Warren Village, or are they like patrolling other places?
Well,
It's like,
I did Google.
we don't
the
have
sheriff-
like a speed trap like in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The funniest thing about that is, yesterday morning, the sheriff had someone pulled over going out of Moortown Village at 6:15.
Wow.
I was like,
Right.
Yeah.
what are you doing here?
Right.
Just getting to
right.
working class.
Yeah,
But that was a new one.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just-
And
we don't
sometimes
really
I
have,
see
like, a speed
two,
trap.
and, I just don't know, the sheriff's I read a little bit up on their website and stuff, mainly they were set up to transport,
Yeah.
prisoners.
Yeah,
And I think this is a way to make money on the side
Yep.
for the sheriff's
Yeah.
department.
Right.
yeah,
Because they do that and they do the traffic control.
Yep.
yeah.
So, because I asked Devin, hey, do you know if those guys, if they're coming to Warren to do something and they go through Middlesex, can they actually pull somebody over? And couldn't answer me that, right? Because I don't know really what their jurisdiction is. If you have
I
to
asked
actually
Sarah.
engage, like, does the town of Fayston have to engage them to get a traffic stop?
Yeah.
I asked
They have to
Sarah
do
about that, if like we ever got paid, if someone was in Warren but ended up getting pulled over in Fayston, and she said like, she thinks it's happened maybe like twice, that we've actually received
Oh, that happens?
but like a long time ago, and it's only
Oh.
happened like
Yeah,
twice,
see, I
so
don't-
it's like,
Oh,
I don't think they
interesting.
can pull people over in I don't think they can sit out here and pull
Monitor
somewhere,
traffic, yeah.
but I think if there was a, police chase that started somewhere else, I mean, they're gonna not just like get to Fayston and stop.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. What's interesting, I remember the days
They
when I
sit
was
down here.
commuting a lot more, coming down North Basin Road in the morning, they were sitting in front of Vans'
Yes.
parking area
They've been
there.
doing that lately, kind of, actually.
Have they really? Yeah, so they're just waiting for us to come out of Facein to nail somebody.
Just
Wow,
last,
that's good to know.
week, there were two sheriffs in Waitsfield Village, and they both had people pulled over
Really?
within a mile.
Yeah,
Two.
I was like, whoa,
yeah,
Yeah.
must be they're
Yeah.
behind. But anyway, so that's why I left it open-ended. We have nothing to do until they come to us and bring it, and maybe they will.
okay,
Awesome.
okay. Well, thank you for doing that.
No problem.
We'll just wait to hear from them, see what goes on.
Yep.
All right, approval of town warning. I had a couple of questions on town warning. I hope we got them, wouldn't I? Article 8, is Chris the second constable?
He is.
Kevin is still the first constable?
Yes.
Okay.
And I looked back, and so when Kevin moved out of town, it was an article to move the first constable as appointed position, because he doesn't live here anymore. So
Okay.
that's when it changed,
Okay.
which we could have changed it that the first and second constable got appointed, so then it like wouldn't be an article every year, but as of right now, it's an article every
It's an
year.
article, and Chris is the one.
Chris is just, yeah.
Okay,
So every year he is on there.
okay. The other thing I had was the last article. Do we need a location? I think we've always had that we would meet town meeting March 3rd, 2026, 9:30 o'clock in the forenoon at Fayston Elementary School.
So honestly, I just took last year's and changed dates, so
Yeah.
it wasn't on last year's, but it doesn't mean that it can't be on this one.
I think our plan would be to do that, so we should put the location in, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's all I had on
And just so everyone's aware, we're gonna have Australian ballot for the Harwood budget, our representative, the Central Vermont Career Center, and now
Oh
the
my
Mad
God.
River Rec District. So we'll have,
To ask, or to
so we're
allow
gonna have
more
4
time.
ballots at town meeting.
Can you repeat that?
Yep, so it'll be the Harwood, budget,
Yeah.
our Fayston representative for the school board, the Central Vermont Career Center budget, and the Mad River Valley Rec District because of the change in the MOU.
Thank you.
So, more ballots on a non-election year.
I know,
If there's any other changes, I'll add it just and print it just so you guys can sign it.
Okay.
The town report goes tomorrow.
I'm just wondering on Article 12.
So they wrote that.
Yes, if there's a way to clarify it more for the voters, could we like send those links out on our broadcast email?
Yeah,
Just
so
to
like,
give
we're gonna
people-
put on, the website, they gave us quite a bit of information about what's happening, and so, me and Sarah were talking about this, that we'll just put that all on the website so that people can look, and we can even do an email blast about it, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
like the email blast and maybe a couple of times.
Because it is confusing, I agree.
Yeah, when I
But they
read-
had their,
Yeah, if somebody didn't have a
Attorney.
chance to dig into it before town meeting, they would have no idea what they're voting on there. But if we do the email blast a couple of times between now and town meeting, I think at least we've given them as much of a chance as understanding
Also, shouldn't
this.
shouldn't they be advertising it? Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think, Mike and Ron, right?
I think that's fine.
Yeah, because I mean, I think in the long run, having more town there is a good thing. Hopefully, we'll share more of the budget over time, but when you read this,
It's confusing.
yeah, if you just showed up at town meeting and opened your town report and saw this, and you went, what the heck am I voting on? So maybe that would be one
See
thing
that?
to do.
12.
But there will be discussion about it too, so.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
It'll just be the people that come in at 7 in the morning that aren't attending town meeting are gonna be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What am I voting on?
Yeah. Well, I think taking those steps will,
Yeah.
at least we've done our part to try to clarify it.
Okay, so, and we want this to be at the Fayston Elementary School.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go print it real quick.
Be right back,
And then you
okay?
can sign it. Feel free to go to the thing if you want.
Do we do liquor licenses next?
She said there were none, that we were deleting that line item.
What's that?
She said there were none? Oh, maybe, I'm sorry, I don't mean to
Right,
interfere.
there's just an excess weight permit.
Oh, yep. Yep. I think there's, let's see here. Actually, two of them. One is for Newport Sand and Gravel, and the other for Dead River Company, doing business as Bourne's Energy. There you go, all set with me signing that.
Yeah. You know, the funniest one with the sheriffs, you know how it's been flagging operations and everything, you can't be flagger. As it currently sits now, it's cheaper to go get the sheriff with a car to sit on your job than to get a flagger.
Really?
No, is that right?
Yeah. It's hilarious.
That's pretty sad.
That makes a lot of sense.
And how are they funded? Other than, I mean, they're not just funded by, must get paid by the state to move
Yeah.
prisoners?
Yeah.
I mean, because Vermont's not very county-based. You know, you go to Florida, my daughter lives there,
Yeah.
everything's run by the county.
Right, but yeah, we don't have, we're state-based and
You know,
jails.
Well, their county's as big as their state.
Right.
You know, so,
Yeah, yeah,
or bigger. But
yeah.
you just don't have
Bigger.
county strength, you know?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, it's interesting how, I don't even know how that evolved, because most states, like when I was living in New Hampshire, they all had county governments, you know? I don't know how that all happened.
So we were in a fender bender and it was on Route 100. It was actually corner of Route 100 and Center Fayston. And the sheriff was the one who came and did
Right.
the official report on, actually now in retrospect, I'm wondering why was it at the
Oh,
state?
interesting.
Because
so
it's Route 100.
that's what Devin did say, they respond to
Yeah.
traffic
Okay,
accidents.
That's their only real, outside of,
Oh, okay.
you know, moving prisoners and stuff, their real
That's
mandate
nice,
is
I
to
know,
just,
too.
like, that was
Yeah.
like, you know, everybody, when the article passed, everybody was like, well, this is for, was really saying that it was for police. And it
Right.
wasn't, it was for the sheriff that's doing purely traffic enforcement.
So if someone has an accident on a Fayston town road, who
If they're closest, they could come,
they
Or it could be, or it could be the state police.
or it could be, or it
the
would.
state police can come to a
Oh,
Fayston
absolutely,
event?
absolutely.
And the state police can patrol
Right.
all the town, all the
Without
roads in the
any
town too.
question, yeah.
They have complete.
So we
So-
have coverage, like, it's
Yeah.
not like we don't
Oh,
have.
no, if you had a car accident, there's always, when someone shows up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think probably the state police might defer to the, if they can't make it, they defer to the county sheriff, because they're short-staffed too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, excess weight permits assigned. We don't have any other business. I guess we can read the mail, sign the warrant.
And this is,
Nothing, no mail?
No mail.
Nothing else in there needs to be signed?
No,
Oh, that's a good thing.
thank you.
So is the town warning actually approved? Do you have to make a motion?
Oh, yeah, probably,
Yes.
yes.
Probably be a good thing to do that. I'll move that we approve the town warning as presented to us. You have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's official.
Yay, we did it.
Thank you, Eve. All these little nuances that we go from meeting to meeting and forget about.
Oh, we agreed on it.
How should I feel in that part? Yeah. Yeah.
So we're pretty well set now for all our town meeting stuff. I know you have a few other things on the list of things to do between now and then, but
Pretty good.
all the documentation that we need,
We
like
got all,
this.
and we got all the stuff back from the auditor, so we were able to actually do the report today.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good, excellent.
Is it Civis or Cives?
Scythes, Viking scythes.
What is it?
Viking scythes. They're plow parts for the trucks.
Gotcha.
So we'll have to decide over the next month or so who wants to do what at town meeting. I'm gonna go back and like review last year's, because I wasn't there naturally, and you know, Jared always, I think, introduces Rick first, so that
Right.
he can get voted on to become the moderator, and then we move from there, so I'm gonna watch that to see if we get that.
Get the mental gymnastics going.
Like we don't have enough. Oops, what are we doing here? Oh, I see what's happening. We get caught on the bottom part there.
You presented the budget last year, right?
All right. You have a motion to adjourn?
I'd make that motion.
All right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.
Maddie, you're all good, you can stop.